This program is about unsolved mysteries. Whenever possible, the actual family members and police officials have participated in recreating the events. What you are about to see is not a news broadcast.
Tonight on the season premiere of Unsolved Mysteries. 25 years ago, something odd fell from the sky and crashed in the remote woods near Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. The official Air Force report states that nothing was found, but eyewitnesses claim a strange cone-shaped object was secretly removed. Was it their imagination or a government cover-up? In California, an unknown arsonist set this house on fire, then callously videotaped the blaze and left the tape near a highway for authorities to find. Last season, we interviewed LeVar Bates, a co-worker of a suspect captured thanks to one of our viewers. Incredibly, that chance interview led to a reunion between LeVar and the daughter he never knew existed. Watch closely. You may be able to help solve a mystery. Twilight, December 9th, 1965. A brilliant light streaked through the skies over Canada and the northeastern United States. Thousands of eyewitnesses reported seeing its trail, which was visible for hundreds of miles in every direction. Near the village of Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, 40 miles southeast of Pittsburgh, Rob Landy and his brother Ray were out riding their bicycles.
We were riding up the road and we just happened to look up into the sky and we saw this thing coming over the tops of the trees. It just glided right across the sky, like across the horizon of the trees we could see, and then it disappeared behind the trees. It scared us. We didn't know what it was or didn't know what to think about it. Just like dumbfounded us. We were just like in awe, as we watched it, and then it disappeared and we ran.
You knew what an airplane looked like, you knew what a helicopter looked like, and that didn't look like anything we had ever seen before. And the angle that it was coming in, I mean, you knew that it had to hit the ground.
Three miles away, another local boy, Randy Overly, also saw the object.
I was playing by a creek at the time and heard a deep hissing noise. And I looked up in the sky and saw an object coming at me from a pretty good distance away. It flew right over top of me, no higher in the air than 200 feet, and was going no faster than a small airplane would go.
Nearby, Nevin and Nadine Kalp were playing outside when the object flew overhead and apparently crashed in a wooded ravine half a mile away.
This ball of like fire come through. It's something that I've never seen before and never seen since. And seen the smoke then at that time down in the hollow there.
With a strange object, that ravine was the end of a long and highly visible trajectory. But for the residents of Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, the mystery was just beginning. For the next 25 years, the townspeople would grapple with a perplexing question. What fell from the sky that December night? Dozens of people, most of them still alive today, were eyewitnesses. For the first time, 10 of them have agreed to come together, make their identities public, and tell the story of a night that they will never forget.
Now, Myra, will you turn on the radio, please?
After Nevin and Nadine Kalp returned home, their mother heard an emergency appeal on the local radio station.
Okay, we're back. Now this just in. We got a report of a downed plane in the Kecksburg area. State police have asked that anyone with any information
The radio
at all-
said something had been sighted, and they were calling all around trying to find out if anyone had an airplane or something missing. So I called in and told them it was no airplane. It was just a small piece that had fallen off an airplane because smoke had came up from the area where it landed, and I said it burned up.
Well, it landed right out here near my farm. Yes, it did.
The radio announcer thanked Frances Kalp for the information.
Very much.
She hung up and put the matter out of mind.
Hello.
Within a matter of 2 or 3 minutes, I got a call
Yes,
from
it did.
a man from the U.S. Navy.
Okay.
And he told me that I was to watch the area. Should anything strange develop, to call this number.
Shouldn't I call the fire company?
I said, well, shouldn't I call the fire company? And he said, no. You call us, we'll call them. So I hung up from talking to him and went to call a girlfriend of mine, and I didn't get about 2 sentences out to her
This is Francis.
when
You'll never guess
an
my-
operator come on and cleared the line with an emergency call.
Oh, okay, operator.
That turned out to be the state police.
Pennsylvania state troopers were on the scene within 15 minutes. They were accompanied by 2 men in civilian clothes who never identified themselves.
It went down over there.
By now, there was no smoke, and the fading light made it difficult to pin down the crash site.
At this point, 2 of the men took a box and went walking towards those trees. And I said to the state trooper that was there, I said, what are all these people coming for? And he said, well, they think they're going to see something. But when this goes out of here, nobody's going to see it. And I said, well, maybe it isn't in here. He said, it's here. And I asked him how he knew, and he said radiation.
Located less than a mile from Kecksburg village, the ravine runs east to west for 800 yards, cutting across several farms. The object appeared to crash here, more than a half-mile from the Kalp's home. As darkness fell, several other search teams left Kecksburg, also trying to locate the crash site.
Just keep going straight. You get to that road, make a right.
Volunteer fireman Jim Mays led one team of state troopers to a promontory overlooking the ravine.
We went up this road and came to the brow of a hill and stopped, and down to the right in the hollow were these blue flashing lights.
You see that light? What is that?
It wasn't searchers down in the woods with flashlights or anything. It was a real bright blue, real bright, like a electric welder. The flashes seemed to be timed at what intervals, I don't know. But it was a time thing. It wasn't like flash bulbs or anything like that. At that point, the troopers decided to close the area off, close the roads off. So he brought the 2 of us that was with him back to the fire station.
Meanwhile, a call went out to all the local fire departments. Soon, more than 30 volunteer firemen had gathered at the Kecksburg station.
Okay, guys, listen up. There's a plane down over the hill. Now, what we're going to do is split up into quadrants. We'll have teams of 3 men, all right? Mansky, Bill, you come with me.
Right.
Prezi, you get your men, get out of here. Tom, take your unit. Now, I'm not sure, but I think right
We all
behind
gathered
down there,
at
right
the
in
fire
front of the
station,
farm.
and the report was we had an aircraft that was down in the Kecksburg area.
Big plane.
Yeah, I saw it as I was driving over. Whatever it is, it's burning.
And after we got our assignment and everybody knew what they were doing, they took us in pickup trucks up the road up here, and they dropped us off at certain points going up the hill.
I'll be all right as soon as I got on this down.
As we were proceeding through our grid, we heard the first team, which was down in front of us, radio back. We found the aircraft.
Where's it?
We're below the Hayes farm in the ravine.
It's right down there.
10-4.
Well, man, we booked out of ours and down through over the fence we went, down into the woods, and we got there.
What is that? I don't know.
Here was this humongous metal object, half buried in the ground, about 6, 7, 8 foot around, and it was every bit of 8, 10, 12 foot long. And to me, the object looked exactly like a fresh acorn that you pick off of a tree. There was no wings, there was no motors, there was no propellers. There was no identification whatsoever that was identified as a aircraft that I would know. There was a bumper on the bottom part of it. On that bumper, there was what I call, it looked to me like the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. It was markings like stars and shapes and figures and circles and lines. And what it was, I don't know. To this day, I've never seen anything like it. I've studied the ancient Incas, I've studied the ancient Aztec Indians, I've studied the Egyptians. I've looked at pictures of Russian writing, I've looked at pictures of Polish writing, I've looked at pictures of Hebrew writing. Nothing. Nothing that resembles it. Chinese writing? No. So we're all standing around this thing, looking around, checking and everything, and wondering what in the heck it could be. And finally, here come 2 men down through the woods.
Gentlemen, you must leave the area. The site is quarantined.
And they took one look at the object and immediately told us to leave. They said, this area is now quarantined. We are in charge. We're taking command. Get out of here. So we start walking out of there. And down through the woods, here comes military. So we left there, and by the time we got back down here to the fire hall, I mean, this place was wall-to-wall military.
Within 3 hours of the crash, military personnel had set up a command center in the Kecksburg fire station. They promptly restricted civilian movement in the area.
Good evening. We need this building here for a temporary tactical headquarters. With your permission, of course. You have phones here? Can we see where they are?
It seemed like they were on the scene immediately. I would imagine there was in a neighborhood of 25 to 30 military. At the time, it seemed like that they were really anxious to get into the scene of whatever may have been.
An hour later, the military authorities also commandeered a farmhouse near the ravine.
Once you're here.
Lillian Hayes and her family had been living in the house for just a month.
Well, the military was coming in and out of my house all evening. They were making a lot of phone calls, and they were standing around in groups talking.
Oh, that's a Roger. We believe we've located the ravine. We estimate contact within 10 minutes.
I have no idea who they telephoned. There was no calls turned up on my bill.
Notify NASA, put them on standby, and let the Pentagon know what's going on.
The village of Kecksburg, with a population of just 250, appeared to have been invaded, first from the sky, then by the United States military. Soon, hundreds of curious spectators gathered on nearby roads to try and get a glimpse of the mysterious object. 19-year-old Bill Weaver was among them.
I happened to come down through Kecksburg, and I heard on the radio that an object had landed. Seeing some people and some cars alongside the road, I pulled in. There was a pretty good crowd of people gathered in that field, and they were looking down into a small ravine with some trees.
Hey, what's going on down there?
I looked down in there myself. I seen there was something down in there that had bright lights on it, but I couldn't see the object itself. Sometime later, I seen a box truck, a van-type truck, pull up there. There were some men come around the side of it. They were dressed in moon suits, we called them at the time, and they had a light-colored box, I'm guessing roughly 5 foot square. They carried it down into the ravine.
The box Bill Weaver saw seemed too small to hold the object itself. Was there someone or something inside the object that the military wanted to remove?
Please, don't be alarmed. Everything is
Before
under
long,
control.
an Army officer appeared on the
have to leave
scene.
the area.
He ordered the crowd to disperse.
Thank you, but you'll have to leave the area now.
Hey, what's going on down there?
You'll have to leave the area now.
They told me unless I moved my car and got out of there that they would confiscate my car.
Back in Kecksburg, Jim Romansky and the other firemen had still not been allowed inside the firehouse. The military continued to occupy it as a control center.
We looked up, and here comes this Jeep down over the hill with its red light on. And right behind the Jeep was a large flatbed truck. And on the back of the flatbed was this covered object. They come down here so fast that I know if you'd have walked out in front of it, they'd have ran you over. They'd have never stopped. And out down the road they went, and where they went, I have no idea.
Whatever came down in Kecksburg that night is of high importance to the military agencies. The most mysterious thing about the whole case is the fact that after 25 years, the government still refuses to give us any actual information on what occurred.
Stan Gordon is a local researcher who has spent more than 10 years interviewing dozens of Kecksburg eyewitnesses. He has explored several theories trying to answer the questions raised on that December night in 1965.
Astronomers who looked into the case at the time basically felt that the object in question was a bolide, which was a very bright fireball-type meteor. And they, in fact, eliminated reports that it could have been some type of man-made device that re-entered the Earth's atmosphere. But we now know that the thing basically was coming down from the tip of Ontario and was passing down basically in a northwest to southeast trajectory. The object appeared to have made about a 25-degree turn toward the east, near Cleveland, Ohio. And it came in on a straight path over the Pittsburgh area. And the interesting thing is now that the new data suggests that the object made a turn towards the south. And then the object made another turn towards the village of Kecksburg, where it was proceeding into there towards the northeast. The interesting thing is the fact that within several miles of the crash site, multiple witnesses tell us that this object was coming in at a very, very slow speed of descent. Meteors do not make controlled turns. They do not come in at a slow speed like this. And they, in fact, do not glide in, which this thing apparently did.
My personal opinion of what landed in Kecksburg that night was a capsule of some kind. From whether it was one of ours or a foreign, I have no idea. The military wouldn't let us get to the scene, so I have no idea, but I know it wasn't a meteor.
2, 1, 0.
Another theory is that the object was space debris. In 1965, NASA was involved in the Gemini program. Then as now, it was our government's policy to monitor not only U.S. space activity, but also launches from the Soviet Union and all other countries.
Going back into the records we have from NASA and documents we have from other agencies, they apparently have no loggings for any type of space debris on that date and the time of this observation. So we also have to look at the other possibility. Could this indeed have been an extraterrestrial spacecraft?
Space debris, a meteor, a fallen satellite, or a genuine extraterrestrial craft? The final answer to what was found in the ravine may only be known by the military personnel who worked in the Kecksburg recovery operation. This is a copy of the official Air Force record of the Kecksburg incident, which Stan Gordon obtained through the Freedom of Information Act.
The report indicated that there was quite a lot of interest by government agencies as to what the object may have been. There were memos there and requests for information from Houston Space Center, from NORAD, from the Air Force Command Post, the Pentagon, even the chairman of the Office of Emergency Planning requested information. The official Air Force explanation was that it was likely a meteor. And basically what it goes on to say is the fact that the search was called off around 2 a.m. and that nothing was found. But evidence indicates that something indeed was found at the site.
The military's idea of finding nothing is completely false. There was something down in that ravine that night. There was something that glowed an awful bright light. And they took something out of there that night.
Another eyewitness reported seeing a military convoy coming out of the ravine. At the end of the convoy was a flatbed truck with a large covered object on the back. John Hayes was only 10 years old when the truck rumbled by his bedroom window.
What was on the back of it, I have no idea. It was about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle from the distance I was at.
Gentlemen, you must leave the area. The site is formed.
According to Stan Gordon, eyewitnesses identified the military unit as the Air Force's 662nd Radar Squadron based in Pittsburgh. Gordon believes the unit was part of a top-secret operation investigating UFOs.
There is no entry at all for December 9th of 1965 in the December log of all activities for that squadron. That tells us that somebody apparently wanted to keep all information associated with the unit's involvement in that site away from public information. I think that we can very plainly see the fact that the government has not told us everything they know about the Kecksburg case.
Official reports that the military and the government put out, as far as I'm concerned, are a bunch of bull. If this thing was a meteorite, then why didn't they just bring it out and say, here it is? Let the reporters take pictures of it, let the firemen see it, let the people in this area see it. Why the big mystery?
I think when we get down to eliminating everything we've known about the object, we have two possibilities that we're dealing with here. Either one, that we're dealing with some highly advanced space probe, probably of a foreign nation, that appears to be very highly technical for what we knew about 1965. Or the possibility exists that we may indeed be dealing with an extraterrestrial spacecraft.
What happened in the fields outside of Kecksburg, Pennsylvania on December 9th, 1965? 25 years after the fiery object was seen streaking through the skies, the answers to the mystery remain as elusive as the object itself. The Air Force has declined our request to comment on this story. Their official report still states that they were investigating a meteorite. The report concludes that nothing was found. Some people in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania disagree. When we return, last summer one of our updates inadvertently solved a mystery of lost love and helped a daughter meet her father for the very first time. Last July, we featured an update on the capture of convicted murderer John Mooney. During this segment, we interviewed several of Mooney's unsuspecting co-workers, including 53-year-old LeVar Bates. What LeVar didn't know at the time was that he was the center of his own unsolved mystery. Over the past 3 years, we have featured more than 20 stories of lost love. More than half of them resulted in heartwarming reunions. Tonight, we present an unusual update about lost love and how a chance interview helped a father and his 31-year-old daughter meet for the first time. "1958. Ike was president. Elvis was king. Sock hops and hula hoops were the latest craze. That summer in Amarillo, Texas, 22-year-old LeVar Bates fell in love with 18-year-old Peggy Atwood.
Yeah, it's in the back seat.
We met at a place called the Panhandle Barn Dance. They were playing a dance called the Paul Jones. It's where you dance with someone and then they blow a whistle and you change partners. Well, when time came for us to change partners and he turned around and grabbed me, I was swept off my feet. I just thought he was the most handsome man at that time I'd ever seen.
LeVar was employed by a construction outfit and was working temporarily in Amarillo. Peggy lived in Pampas, Texas, a small town 60 miles away. Every weekend, LeVar would make the hour drive to Peggy's home so they could be together.
The most fun about driving around was being with LeVar and having my arm over him over his shoulder and cranking up the radio, and just like all teenagers, you know, just making the drag. We just thought that was the grandest thing.
Several months after they first met, Peggy drove to Amarillo and paid a surprise visit to the man of her dreams.
Hey, baby! Come on inside. Honey, let me finish up in the bathroom, okay?
Okay, sure.
All right.
When I went in to see LeVar in his hotel room, he had just gotten out of the shower and was putting his stuff in his pocket as we were fixing to go out.
I thought maybe then we could go over to Hills.
And there was a picture of this girl on his dresser.
Yeah, I think so.
And of course, being 18, I just throwed a fit.
It's good to see you.
Who the hell is Fifi?
She's just a friend of mine. I met her at the coffee shop the other day.
Just a friend.
Yeah, just a friend of mine. It's nothing.
He kept telling me that he'd only known her for a couple of times. You know, he'd went out with her a couple of times. There wasn't anything serious between them, and naturally, I didn't believe him.
Put up with this.
Listen to me.
You're two-timing me, LeVar.
Peggy, I am not two-timing you. Listen to me, okay?
I'm leaving.
Listen to me.
And then I got real mad and left. And that was the last time I saw him or heard from him.
When Peggy stormed out of LeVar's life, she had no idea that she was pregnant with his child. The next day, LeVar's company transferred him to Colorado. He never saw or heard from Peggy again. 8 months later, Peggy gave birth to a daughter whom she named Kimber. When she was older, Kimber learned the truth about her father.
My mother had told me as much as she could about him, but she didn't know where he was at or where he'd went to or anything like that. I wondered a lot of what he'd be like, what he'd look like, or just things like that, but I just couldn't imagine, you know, with no information at all, I just couldn't imagine what he'd be like.
LeVar Bates had no way of knowing that he was a father. Over the years, Peggy and Kimber often discussed trying to locate LeVar, but with so little information to go on, they eventually gave up hope of finding him. All that changed on Wednesday night, July the 4th, 1990. That evening, Peggy Atwood was watching the rebroadcast of our 3rd anniversary special when she suddenly recognized a familiar face.
Just disbelief. I didn't really believe it. You know, he'd be the last one I'd believe was involved in something like that.
I didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether to try to call him and try to find out, or to call Kimber and tell her, but then I decided not to call her at all until I found out for sure whether he wanted to meet her.
At Peggy's request, we contacted LeVar, who now lives in Phoenix, Arizona. LeVar is married and has 2 children.
When the guy from Unsolved Mysteries called me, said that Peggy'd seen me on television, seen the name, and was wondering if I was interested in talking to her about a daughter we had that was 31 years old. And I sit down and shook a little and scared me.
I was so nervous because I was afraid he wouldn't call. And I wanted to tell Kimber so bad about her daddy. And those 4 days not being able to pick up the phone and call her and tell her that I had found her daddy, You know, it was probably the hardest thing I've ever went through in my life.
Oh, the day she called and told me that she had found him, it was just, I was excited, I was scared, I was all the emotions just went crazy. I didn't really know what to do because I was kind of in shock, I think. I wanted to see him. I wanted to know him. And I was just hoping that he would want to know me, too.
On August 10th, Unsolved Mysteries flew LeVar to Amarillo to meet his daughter for the first time. For Kimber, the chance to meet her father was a dream come true.
I'm fine. How are you? It's been a long time, hasn't it?
When I actually seen him for the first time, it was great.
You looking good?
It was exciting and nerve-wracking, but once I actually met him, it was all right.
Oh gosh, I don't
He's the kind of person I really would like to know a lot better, and I hope we have time together to get to do that.
This is David.
Glad to meet you, David.
This is Regina.
Gap of 30 years is a long time when you think about it. But we seem to hit it off pretty good, like we've known each other quite a while. I don't know why that is, but it just seemed to be real easy.
To actually find my father, it means to me that now I can get all the questions answered that I've wondered about. And in the future, I hope more than anything that he stays part of our family and that we can make up for all the years that we didn't get to be a family.
Next, an unsettling look into the mind of a deranged arsonist who videotaped the fire he set and filled the tape with his alarming and possibly satanic commentary.
I call hell. I've never run across anything as eerie as this tape. It frightened me. As a matter of fact, I thought about it that night when I went to bed.
Each year in the United States, more than 200,000 people become the victims of arsonists. Each fire is an individual tragedy. In many cases, victims are left not only homeless, but injured or dead. You're about to have the rare and disturbing opportunity to go inside the mind of an arsonist. An arsonist who police believe made a videotape of the fire he set. The story starts with an innocent discovery. August 15th, 1989. Near Stockton, California, a car overheated in the scorching summer temperatures. We'll call the car's owner Joseph Villa.
Oh, man. Stay back over there.
Joseph inspected the damage while his wife and son looked on. Joseph decided that he and his son should walk to the nearest telephone. On the way, the boy noticed a camouflage jacket on the ground. Wrapped in the jacket were a videotape with no label and several audio cassettes of heavy metal music. They decided to take the videotape home. This is the actual videotape found by the Villas, and police are convinced that the person holding the camera set the fire himself. The Villa family was stunned when they realized what they were watching. The disturbing voice on the tape seemed to belong to the arsonist. The police have since enhanced the voice for clarity.
Look at that. Do you see what I could do, ladies and gentlemen? Do you see what I can do?
This is crazy.
Joseph Villa decided to turn the tape over to the authorities.
I've never run across anything as eerie as this tape. It frightened me. As a matter of fact, I thought about it that night when I went to bed.
Unable to pinpoint the location of the fire, investigators began an in-depth study of the videotape itself.
Look at it, Omar.
Okay.
Look at it, Omar.
Look at it, Omar. Look at it, Omar.
Okay. He did say the name Omar.
Look
again.
at it, Omar. Look at it, Omar. Then he
Okay.
laughs. When we listened to the tape, it was hard to understand certain words that this person was saying. So we sat down and we actually went through this tape, I mean, hundreds of times, and came up with a script.
Look at it, Omar. This is what I've been doing on your week's vacation. I said I'll do it. I said I'll do it.
He says, I told you I'd do it, Omar. Is Omar the property owner? It's a revenge type burn. Is Omar the construction person that maybe hired this person and fired him and made that a revenge motive for the fire? Really don't know. We really don't know who Omar is.
Okay, is this the jacket?
Yes, that's it.
Okay. Did you see anything else around here?
A county arson investigator accompanied Joseph Villa's brother to the spot where the tape had been discovered. Amazingly, the jacket was still there. In it was a wooden pestle, the type sometimes used to grind herbs for satanic rituals. Nearby, the two men found a glove that matched the jacket and a ceramic skull. The pestle and the skull suggest Satanism, as do certain portions of the Arsonist monologue.
I call it home. My hell. The whole sky is black with smoke. Then I will destroy and burn your soul. Ancient spirit of evil.
Those are basically the clues, all we have on the video. And that's why we need to find out where this went down. Where is this home?
Look at it. The fire department's trying to put it out. What a laugh.
As we viewed the tape, we realized that there was fire suppression equipment that had responded to the incident. And we thought if we can enhance the tape, bring those shots in a little bit closer to us, we may be able to get a door mark or a house number, or maybe even a fire department insignia on the door.
Despite a frame-by-frame analysis, the photographic enhancements did not reveal any new details. Investigators were still unable to match the tape with any reported fires in the state of California. The tape was found by the Villa family here, just a few yards from Interstate 205 near Stockton. 205 feeds into several major highways, so authorities believe the fire could have happened anywhere in the United States, and that the arsonist might have been only traveling through California.
I think the person who made this videotape and is responsible for the fire will, without a doubt in my mind, continue to set fires. And the person needs to be apprehended and stopped before his fires become more destructive. And there's a few of these type of serial arsonists that will move into another criminal area. You may recall the son of Sam back east who killed 6 people with a .44 Magnum. He was responsible for about 2,000 fires in the city of New York. And then he stopped setting fires and started killing people.
Look at the flames. Listen to the coyotes yell. Listen to them. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
The house appears to be a one-story ranch house with 2 chimneys. There is another house on the left side of the picture, partially hidden by a white trailer. The trailer may indicate that the burning house was under construction. The setting is uncluttered, perhaps rural. The arsonist gives the date as 1988, and TV commercials recorded onto another part of the tape verify that date. Because fire engines do arrive, it seems fairly certain that somewhere a report of this fire is on file. Update: Redwood City, California, 60 miles west of Stockton. Within minutes of our broadcast, several viewers from Redwood City called our telecenter and identified the location of the house seen burning on the videotape.
As we were sitting here and we looked at the film on the TV, we realized with utter shock that it was the house behind us that was on TV. And our family was scared, to say the least, because we didn't realize that the film even existed. And there was no mistake in my mind at all that that was the house that was behind us by watching the videotape on TV. And we called in to Unsolved Mysteries and gave all the information.
The arson occurred on August 15th, 1988. The house that was destroyed was under construction at the time. Today it has been rebuilt. Incredibly, on the night of the blaze, Woodside Fire Captain Don Dellinges also videotaped the fire.
While I was setting up the command post, directing companies in to extinguish the fire, I had set up my video camera to film the fire for training and investigation purposes.
By comparing Captain Dellinge's tape with a video shot by the arsonist, investigators were able to confirm beyond a doubt the fire's location.
Some of the calls received led us to a 17-year-old Woodside youth. We interviewed that youth. Through that interview, it led us to a 19-year-old Redwood City youth. He was arrested and interviewed and subsequently admitted burning the house, taking the video, and was the one who talked on the videotape.
Our biggest hope was that maybe we would find an area or location of the fire. We never dreamed that we'd get the results that we did.
Every October 18th, Francesca and Tomas Santana commemorate their daughter Marlene's birthday. But every October 18th is also a time of sorrow for the Santana family, for their daughter has been missing since 1985. 3 days after Marlene Santana was born, she was kidnapped on a Brooklyn street. No trace of her has ever been found. On October 18th, 1985, Francesca gave birth to a little girl. She named her Marlene.
When my baby was born, she was pretty. She was very beautiful. She was the most beautiful baby in the nursery.
3 days later, on the 21st of October, Francesca was preparing to take her baby daughter home when she met a woman outside the nursery.
Is that your baby?
Yeah.
He's so beautiful.
When I was looking at my baby in the nursery, I saw a woman in the window that she told me that my baby was the most quiet one, the prettiest one. And I was glad that she told me that because I thought she liked my baby.
A few hours later, Francesca checked out of the hospital. Her two sisters-in-law came to take her home. The time was 9 p.m.
When we going downstairs, a woman came to me, the same woman that I saw in the nursery.
Where are you going? Been waiting for you all day.
She told me she was waiting for me all day.
Oh, we're going home now. Goodbye.
This isn't a game. I'm not joking around. Walk or I'll blow her head off. Walk.
So she showed us the gun and she told us to walk or she gonna blow up the head. And we walk.
Keep going.
They walked over 6 blocks at gunpoint.
Walk!
Finally, they stopped near a deserted junkyard.
Stop! I said stop!
At first, Francesca thought that they were being robbed.
Give me the baby. Give me the baby. I said, give me the baby. Keep walking. Walk!
The woman got in a car driven by an accomplice and drove off.
When she took the baby, I was in shock. I didn't know what to do. I was crying. I stopped the car there, and nobody helped us.
After Francesca and her companions went to the police, detectives were assigned to the case. Francesca was able to describe the car that had driven away with her baby. It was a white 1976 Chevy Malibu with red lettering on its door. At the hospital, police tried to gather descriptions of the mysterious woman. Some believe that she was not a professional criminal, but rather an emotionally disturbed woman, unable to have a child of her own. Based on eyewitness descriptions, a composite was created showing the abductor. She was white with Hispanic features and no accent. She had dyed reddish blonde hair and appeared to be in her late 20s. Today, 3 years later, the Santana family still search for their missing child. A composite artist sketched Marlene as she might look today. She would be 3 years of age and may celebrate her birthday around Halloween. She might have been put up for an illegal adoption in late 1985 or 1986.
Maybe one day, a person who knows where's my baby, they must say something. They must do it. I don't think I'm gonna die without seeing my baby again.
Next week on Unsolved Mysteries, December 1945, a squadron of Navy torpedo planes took off from Florida and literally disappeared from the face of the earth during a routine training exercise in an area we now call the Bermuda Triangle. Since then, the mysterious powers of the Bermuda Triangle are said to have caused hundreds of ships and planes to vanish. Now, dramatic new evidence suggests that the legend of the Bermuda Triangle is just that, only a legend. And in Northern California, one woman takes a brave stand against drug dealers in her neighborhood. An unexpected barrage of gunfire left her wounded, but more determined than ever. Her attackers fled and remain unidentified. We'll also tell you the poignant story of 6 brothers and sisters who were uprooted from their homes and placed in orphanages. Today, 5 of them are still searching for the missing brother. Join me next week for another edition of Unsolved Mysteries.